Hello. I've been getting a lot of questions in the comments about this windshield wiper motor servo that I made. So I just thought I'd do a follow-up video and answer some of those questions and finally show you a schematic. So let's get into it. So again, this is, or was, just a normal windshield wiper motor. And I modified it to work with a radio, like a radio control receiver transmitter. So I've got the little connector here that plugs into the receiver and power and ground here. Obviously the power from an RC system, you know, we're talking voltage of like 5 volts maybe. That's not going to run this. So you have to have like 12 volts here and then this plug into your receiver. And we do that with a circuit board and some modifications here. So again, I did a whole video on how to do that, but I'm getting a lot of questions. And apparently I didn't do a good enough job on the original video. So I just want to answer some of those questions. First off, a lot of people comment about the motor itself, and they're asking questions about the motor itself. And like wiring or what kind, and questions like that I can't answer. When I got this one, I had no clue what wires did what. I mean, it had like 4 or 5 inputs because this one had different modes and speeds. So I just experimented with the inputs, and I just found a pair of wires that made it ran nicely. Just experimenting with power and ground to see what it would do. There's countless part numbers of these motors. Whatever one you have, whatever one you get, you're just going to have to play around with it and see what makes it run. But ultimately, you need 2 wires to make it run. Again, yours might have several contacts or several wires, but you need to find the 2 that make it run. I can't help you with that. Second question is the circuit board itself, what it is and where I got it. It is, I don't know if you can read that in there, IBT-4. This is a motor controller, motor driver. What this does, it takes a small signal on one side, like 3 or 4 volts on one side, gives you a bigger output on the other side. So you can drive a 12-volt motor with a 3-volt input. That's all it does. And that circuit board is from the from an old, just a servo. This is what had the potentiometer in it from the servo. And again, go back and watch my other video. I don't want to rebuild this whole thing on this video. I'm just wanting to answer some questions. The most common question though with this, again, one question was, what's this circuit board and where did I get it? Again, it's the IBT-4 motor driver. I got it on eBay. I don't even remember how much, $5 maybe. Somebody commented that every one they got, it worked for about a minute and quit working. I don't know why yours would quit working. I don't know if you wired it correctly, too much voltage, I don't know. Maybe you just got a bad one. I mean, these things are coming from China. You buy 10 of them, maybe you might get 3 or 4 that work perfect, no problem. That's just the chance you take when you buy electronics from China. And no disrespect to them, but it is what it is. You know, I've gotten motor controllers for RC cars, and right out of the box didn't work. Called them up, they sent me another one. After a few hours of running, it just smoked. Called them up, they sent me another one, and that one was fine. So it's kind of a crapshoot in what you get. This one seems to be working fine. Again, I'm sure there's other part numbers, there's other boards that could work. There's probably circuits online, you could build your own and make it work. But this is just an easy $5 thing without having to build your own motor driver. But if you did a little bit of research, you could probably find circuits, schematics to where you could build your own motor driver. So the most common question with this is people asking for me to give them the wiring diagrams, the wiring schematics. I realized after the first time somebody asked me that, I'm like, oh crap, apparently I didn't give the actual schematics. I explained how the wires got connected, but it's always helpful to have an actual wiring diagram in front of you. So I'll do that now. I will draw out the schematics. So once it's finished, you can pause it and print it, and you can have your schematics. So the first component I'm going to put on here is the motor driver itself. And my handwriting is not very good. But let's say this is the IBT-4. Now, on one side of the circuit board, you have 3 connections. This one is ground. I'll just put G for ground. This one is N2, and this one is N1. Those 3 are right there. Ground, N1, and N2. Is that going to focus? Probably not. There you go. Ground, N2, and N1. N2 is the middle one. Ground, that's the common ground. I'll show you where that connects here in a second. The N1 and N2, those are coming from the potentiometer wires from that circuit board. Okay? So, which that'll be the next thing. I'll just put down, or over here, I will put the servo. So this came from the servo. Just put servo. And the servo has 3 wires, and those are the white, red, and black. So it's positive, ground, and signal. And those just go to that 3-pin plug. All right, so that will plug into your receiver. So that plugs into your receiver. Again, my handwriting is horrible. I apologize. And from that servo printed circuit board, we have the signals from the old motor. So those wires are what went to the small motor inside of the servo. So we'll just put here, I'll just put motor wires. Motor wires. And they're the same color, they're both black. There's no plus or minus. And yeah, it is possible you could get those swapped, you could get them reversed. But if you do that, what will happen is when you power this up, the thing will just drive all the way one direction until it crashes itself. So you got to be ready to pull power away from it if that happens. So when you first apply power, if this thing starts driving one direction, you need to cut power and just swap those wires. Okay. Now on the other side of the IBT-4, we have a junction block with 4 terminals, and that's these right over here. 2 of them are for the windshield wiper motor, and they're just labeled motor. 1 is negative, 1 is positive. So the windshield wiper motor, and I'll just put that up here. That's my windshield wiper motor. Just put a big M for motor. The wires for the motor, and just to kind of help keep things separate, we'll change up colors here a little bit. Those just tie right to there. So what's happening is, when the receiver gets the signal to drive the servo, it would normally drive the small little motor in the servo, but we cut that motor out. Instead, it's putting those signals to this board here. This board is going to take those 3 or 5 volts and turn them into 12 volts to then drive that motor. Okay? And again, if it starts running backwards, you could just swap those wires or those wires. It doesn't matter. So when you first connect it, it's just a guess. You could do some testing with a voltmeter, check it and check correct direction here. You could do all of that, or you could just connect it, and if it doesn't work, swap the wires. Over here, we just have power and ground. So this is just going to go to, let's say we'll have a, we'll need a 12 volt battery. So I'm just going to put 12 volt battery, and this is the negative. And for power, then we go to power here. And then we have a common ground. The common ground is going to go here. And let's see if I can do this halfway neatly. To here. Ties in with the same one here. Because you're going to have a lower voltage battery for this, 5 volts driving this, and you're going to have 12 volts over here. So you're going to have two different batteries. That common ground allows this to work with this. And this is the whole wiring right here. This is it. This is all there is to it. And hopefully this makes sense. And again, just looking at this, so the new servo has the plug, which is here, power and ground wires here, which go to the 12-volt battery here, and that servo board is right here. The potentiometer on the backside is being driven by the motor now, and of course the IBT-4 is here. And this is all the wiring. So hopefully this answers a lot of questions. Hopefully this helps. If you wire it like this and it doesn't work, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, mine works. Maybe you have a different servo. I don't know. If you wire it like this and it doesn't work, I don't know what to tell you. Obviously, without having your project right in front of me, I can't diagnose it or look at it and confirm you have it wired properly. It's just, I don't know. I can't really help you. It's possible you got a bad one of these. Maybe when you order one, order 2 or 3. And just double check all the wiring. And again, when you first power it up, if it's wired backwards, if the motor is wired backwards, it's just going to start driving all the way one way, because what's happening is the signal here is telling it to turn clockwise, and it starts turning counterclockwise, but it doesn't know it's going the wrong way. It's just saying it's wrong, so it keeps telling it to go, and it's like, well, I am, but it's backwards, so it's the wrong way. So it'll just drive all the way one way. So if you see it just starting to run away on you, just kill the power, and either swap those two or swap those two, reconnect it, and it should be fine. So hopefully this makes sense. I think those were the majority of the questions for this project. I think that was it. I can't think of anything else that people were asking about this. So hopefully this clears anything up. And let me know if you have any more questions. And as always, thanks for watching.